countdown begins.
Fresh.
You're listening to the Plumbing Sales Coach, where we give companies the strategies and skills to create a massive customer following.
Fresh.
And now, your host, Chris. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Fresh Approach. I'm your host, CF, the Plumbing Sales Coach, and today we're going to talk about the magic of diagnosing. Diagnosing is literally one of the three things that every service technician, every service plumber has to master. It's literally essential to being able to provide options. It's essential to being able to help your customer. It's essential to being able to understand what's even going on as it relates to the plumbing problem that the customer found, but also the plumbing problem that's going on in the home. We're going to talk about that. This is really important. Diagnosing really will keep you from not only helping your customer, but quite honestly, making the bigger money, being able to grow your business, because as a plumbing business owner, you need your guys to be able to convert. You need your guys to be able to be more efficient and to maximize their time so that you don't have to charge the customer a whole lot of money for nothing. You can actually charge the customer a decent amount of money for a whole lot of something, if you get what I'm saying. If you watch the show enough to know, then you know that's what we talk about. In fact, if you're new to the show and you're just joining us, welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast that is designed to help you build a massive customer following. Whether you're a technician, you're listening, whether you're a CSR and you're listening, your goal, your job is to serve your community. You're a service expert. If you serve your company, you're a service expert when you not only do that, but you also serve your customer. And then you're also a service expert when you put the trifecta all together and you serve your community. All three of those together make you a service expert. And that's what we're trying to help you become. As an owner, you want a team of service experts in your community. If you've never really gotten information about us, you were a long-time listener, first-time caller, why don't you reach out to us, get a little bit more information about the packages that we offer. You can become a part of our inner circle. You can do that through the www.theplumbingsalescoach.com, our website. You can fill out the form and just get more information, or you can email us at info@theplumbingsalescoach.com, or you can keep listening to podcasts and getting this information. We don't mind that. We love you. Thank you for doing that. In fact, we have a little message for a little bit of here in a little bit on the podcast for all of you that do that coming up. But I want to really dive into this topic. I want to get into diagnosing. This is so essential. This is the plumbing part of the job, right? There's the part where we actually do the work, but then there's this part where we have to diagnose and find out what's going on. And so many times I see this mistake made where we leave it up to the customer. We just kind of assume that the customer, of course the customer knows what they want. Of course the customer's going to know what they can afford, what they can spend money on. And it's absolutely their choice, and it's not for us to tell them. But they're also not plumbers. They're probably dealing with something that has failed, right? And so they found it after it existed. A lot of times we walk into water damage. A lot of times we walk into flooded out crawl spaces. Or we see a sump pump that's 15 years old and it failed and it flooded out the basement and the customer had no idea that the shelf life was only 8 to 12 years, or a water heater that's leaking. Wouldn't it be better to replace the water heater a year before it leaked? Yeah. 2 years before it leaked? Of course. Some of you are like, wait, what? Yeah. Why would you want to pay for all the, some of you are like, well, I don't like charging money for water. It's too much. Don't want to charge any money, but at the same time, you have no problem with your customer paying $10,000 to replace their flooring in their home because you didn't want to replace the shutoff yet because it wasn't failing yet. And so the big mistake we make, the trap we fall into, I don't know, and it's always confused with some sort of good motive assigned to this. Like, well, I don't want to sell the customer a bunch of stuff they don't need, and the customer just wants to get us out of there real quick and whatever. No. The customer doesn't want to spend unnecessary time, and the customer doesn't want to spend unnecessary money fixing unnecessary things. Fact. I agree. We're on the same page. But if I go in and my wife drives a car and she hauls around our kids, we have 8 kids, 2 are in the Army, go Army, 2 are in the Army right now. They just graduated boot camp. Congratulations, sons. I love you. But the other 6, they're still at home. And so we got to ride them around all over the place all the time. We're like basically glorified taxis. And I want that vehicle to be safe, right? Wouldn't you? Of course you would. And so if I take my car in because I've got a tire that's going low on that car and I want to get that car, I'm going to tell the guy, hey, look, can you patch the tire? Can you make the tire hold air? Can you fix the tire? Can you do whatever you guys do in the magic of tires? And he comes to me and he says, yeah, no problem. Let's get this taken care of. And they slap a new tire on there and I roll out. And he leaves out the fact that the other tires are all worn down. He leaves out the fact that the other tires are showing tread or whatever that's called. I can't think right now. That the wear and tear, the metal that comes through there. I'm having a moment. You know, the stuff you don't want to see coming out of your tire. Eventually, that ends up being air coming out of your tire at 75 miles an hour on the road, and they call that a blowout. And you don't want that for your family. Now, you don't want to go buy tires for no reason, but at the same time, you want to be educated. Look, this is true with your customer. Yet they don't want to buy a PRV. They don't want to buy a softener. They don't want to replace their water heater. These are commodities to them. Until you help them, first of all, help yourself, educate yourself on what's really going on in the home, and then educate the customer. And so here's the first point. The customer's diagnosis is not valid. The customer's diagnosis is not valid. That's the first step of the whole diagnosing. Now, we got to take it in. We got to understand it. We got to listen, but it's not 100% valid. What's valid about it is that they're concerned about it. What's valid about it is that they're wanting something fixed, something restored, something righted, a wrong righted. They want something to work again. They want something to not leak anymore. They want something to, and now there's a symptom. It's kind of like, you know, we don't really want to go to the doctor. We don't want to have surgery. We don't want to take medicine. But at the same time, when that elbow pain pops up, or when that shortness of breath pops up, or when that sharp pain in the lower left back, for those that got a kidney stone before, you heard? When that pops up, you go to the doctor and you say, make the pain go away. And then they tell you that's going to require medicine. That's going to require surgery. That's going to require whatever. But at the same time, I don't want the doctor just to perform surgery for no reason. And I don't really know when that surgery should be performed. And so they usually do some sort of assessment on me. So that's the first point, right? As we walk in, we hear the customer out, but we don't do that assessment. I walk into the doctor and I say, hey, my left arm, it's hurting me really bad. Fix it. Give me pain medicine. Take my arm off. Amputate. And then they find out I'm actually having a heart attack. And what they really need to do is get in there and clean out an artery or clean out a valve or clean out a whatever. I misdiagnosed my own problem, but I knew the symptom was right. I knew my left arm was hurting, but I didn't know what was causing it. The customer's diagnosis is not valid in a lot of ways, and we have to dig deeper. Okay, listen, I mentioned earlier I had a message for all of you that listen to the podcast and for those that pay attention to what we're doing here. And this idea of the customer's diagnosing, and these are things that we talk about on this podcast all the time, over 200 something episodes. I don't even know how many episodes we have now. 232. You probably heard that was just fed to me. 232. This is 232, or we're on 233? We don't know. Too many. It's way too many to count. It's 233, we think, allegedly. Season 5. All right, all the season 5s are this new style where we're doing just a podcast talking directly to you. All the seasons before that were audio versions of our old live show that we used to do on Facebook. So you'll hear me engaging people. You're like, who are all these people? They were watching the show live. We used to have a lot of live viewers, and we love doing that, but Facebook has decided who can see what and hear what and say what, and so we've gone straight to a podcast. Now, this podcast, for all that you listen to the podcast, like the Facebook post, like the YouTube post, check us out on YouTube. We're starting to build a following on YouTube as well. We have an Instagram following now. We're trying to get out there and let everyone know that we exist beyond the old avenues. And so those that are following us, you're a part of something called the Fresh Force. If you're someone who believes in service, you believe in serving your community, serving your customers, serving your company, you're a service expert. And every service expert makes up a larger community called the Fresh Force. This is a group of people who are in a movement They're literally setting a standard that has not been set for quite some time in the name of service. And we're expecting every other industry to follow suit. We're expecting every other trade, every other business model, every other anything to follow suit and get back to the name of what's true, and that is service. Taking care of our customers, giving them something to be excited about spending their money on. Righting a wrong in this case, because plumbing comes at us out of nowhere. You're a part of the Fresh Force. For those that are part of the Fresh Force, email us info@theplumbingsalescoach.com. We want to hear from you. We also send out random merchandise. We send out random things. Share our pages on Facebook. Talk about different things on social media, and we'll give you some stuff we really appreciate. We really are excited to see. I see like a guy by the name of the neighborhood plumbers, Mr. Goheen, I think is how you pronounce his name, Ben. I always see him online posting. He's one guy. Joey Cisneros is another guy. So many, and Joseph, I saw so many different people out there. Literally, probably 50 or 60 people just rattling through my head. I can't even get their names all out. And I don't want to leave anyone out. We really appreciate you, but more importantly, your community appreciates you because you're displaying these things that we talk about. You're the real heroes. Be a part of the Fresh Force. It's something, it doesn't cost anything. It's just something that you take on personally. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about this idea of diagnosing and let the plumbing leading to the plumbing. We talked about the customer's diagnosis. That's typically what they call in with. That's what you come out and hear and check initially. Then you've got your diagnosis. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of what I mean. They call you out and say, my toilet's running nonstop. You get out there and realize that they've actually got an issue with the fill valve and the flush valve. They think they need a fill valve. You find out it's a flush valve. The fill valve is actually working correctly, but the water's seeping down into the tank all throughout the night and eventually having to refill back up. I'm seeping down into the bowl and the fill valve is just refilling the tank as it gets below the level. So they got their diagnosis and your diagnosis. And what's causing all this? What's going on here? And so now you have to educate your customer. Go, actually, what happened was, a better example would probably be like, hey, I need a new water heater. My water heater's leaking. You show up. The water heater's not leaking. It's actually a fitting up above the water heater or something not related to the water heater or something in the wall behind the water heater. And so now you've got your diagnosis. This is still related to the initial symptom. This is still related to the initial issue. Okay, a lot of times what I see in plumbing is we go out and the customer says, hey, I've got this issue. We go, okay, cool. It's going to take this amount of money to fix it. The customer doesn't really have anything to compare that to. In fact, in the next podcast that we're talking about is converting. We're going to take what we talk about today and relate it to this next podcast. And how do you offer these things to the customer? And how do you convert these tickets so that the customer feels good about what they got? They get what they wanted, but they actually get what they really wanted. The deeper thing they were trying to solve before they diagnosed it for you. And so as it relates to your diagnosing, now we're trying to explain to the customer, hey, look, it's not actually this, it's this, and this is what it's going to take. It's actually a little bit more difficult than we thought, or it's not as difficult as we thought, or whatever the scenario is. And we've got that to explain, and we're working through that. And I want to explain in the next podcast, how do you communicate all this stuff? How do you convert these tickets? Because there's a reality that there's like the elephant in the room, right? If you don't address that, it's awkward the whole time. And so if you come out there and you just go, hey, look, the customer goes, I need a new fill valve. And you go, you need a new toilet. And that's all you do. You offer them a toilet. And you never really get them mentally to that same place as you, they're not going to see the value in buying a new toilet, no matter how good of a deal you give them, no matter how much the toilet is. So you're really going to struggle then value stacking off of that. It's like someone coming to a restaurant and wanting a salad, and then I offer them this amazing deal on steak, and then I throw in chicken, and then I start throwing in seafood, and I start, well, shoot, we'll even give you some of the lamb that we got up, and they're a vegetarian the whole time. We're building the wrong value stack. This is right here. This is the mistake often made. This is where you don't make this transition, you're done. It doesn't matter what else you have to say. What'll happen is you'll get into a really cool conversation about a softener or even a tankless, and the customer's still thinking about their fill valve. If you grasp this right here, your conversions will go way up. Way up. Not ticket average, your conversions. Okay? It's not about money. It's about helping the customer get what they truly want, which is solving their problem. They just don't always understand exactly what their problem is. This is what I talk about with my clients. This is what I talk about with you guys on the podcast. This is what I talk about when I visit shops. This is what I talk about in the schools. This is what I talk about when we have owners come into our facilities here and we hang out. We got a couple thousand square feet of facilities here to come check out. In fact, we're offering something really cool right now that I want to offer out to you guys. If you guys want to know about this, this is the first time. If you're hearing this podcast right now, you're hearing this for the first time. We're going to peel back the curtain a little bit. We're offering a product now where owners can come out to our facilities here and spend the day with us. We'll show you firsthand. You can sit right in there in the room with our service managers that sell for companies all across the U.S. as we interact with the technician, as we interact with the customer, as we dispatch the call, as we take the call. You can see it all. You can see it right there firsthand, exactly how it's done, so you can take that knowledge back to your shop and start converting. Start doing the big numbers that we always hear about. We'll show you. We could tell you, but we'll just show you. On top of that, I'll throw in some bonus coaching. We'll one-on-one meet. We'll hang out in my office area. We'll fix your problems. We'll do whatever it takes to make you better. Okay, that's something that we're now offering for a limited time. You can do that. If you're in my actual coaching program, if you're in my highest program, the Accelerate program, you can actually take advantage of that for free. And if you're in our growth program, you get 20% off. For the rest of you, you guys can still take advantage of that. You just got to pay full price is all. So reach out to us, info@theplumbingsalescoach.com, and get that. That's going to be a limited amount of time. We've only got so much space in here. I've only got so much time to do that. So it's going to be for a limited amount of time, and then we're going to announce that on Facebook and social media here in the next coming weeks. Don't miss out on an opportunity to grow your company when one opens up. Now you just have to decide if you really think we can help you. And there's too many cases out there to prove that we can. In fact, talking about that, let's dive into this last point just to kind of bring home this whole entire message, how you guys can actually get better right now just from this podcast. See, there's something going on in that plumbing system bigger than what meets the eye. We're going to talk about converting. We're going to talk about how the customer is expecting you to say one thing, and if you don't get into that arena, if you don't get into that diagnosis, if you don't explain to them that first scenario and help them transition from their diagnosis to your diagnosis, you're never going to be able to get to the bigger issue. But you have to get to the bigger issue. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. We talk about that in all the coaching and all the tech trainings that are part of the coaching programs. And it's this idea of letting the plumbing lead to the plumbing and looking for the bigger issue. The three things that we talk about are age, water condition, and water pressure. I coach some companies. I got one company I can think of where they got 17,000 people living in their city. They haven't really added on. They haven't developed. So they don't have high water pressure issues. They still have water towers and stuff. But for the most part, that's not the case. And then water condition is really bad across the U.S. And there's a few of you out there where that's not the case, but maybe you got chlorine because you're in a high density city area. Maybe it's just age of plumbing. Maybe it's just that simple. But we talk about this stuff. This is a bigger issue. Something else going on here. If I got a customer that's had 2 or 3 slab leaks, for those that don't know what that is, that's where the plumbing runs through the slab. Some of you are like, how could someone not know what that is? Well, because different parts of the country, Canada, U.S., Australia, plumbing's all different. But if somebody's on their 3rd slab leak or their 2nd shower valve that's leaking or dripping, cartridge repair on a faucet, the 3rd one, I'm starting to think, man, maybe there's a pressure issue here. Maybe there's something going on. So I check the pressure on every home just to make sure, right? I'm looking for that bigger issue. What's the bigger problem? Again, we're going to talk about in the next podcast exactly how this relates to driving up your ticket average. But for today, I'm really just talking about converting the right way. I'm just talking about doing it in a way to where the customer can go, okay, I totally get what's going on here. I thought it was this. He's showing me it's this. And now I see that there's actually a reason why I've had this problem happen to me, not necessarily in this part of the home, but in different parts of the home. We're going to talk about that again in the next podcast, but there are 3 different really levels to explaining to the customer what's going on. And the better you get at that, and I'll just throw this little nugget out there right now, owners, as it relates to working with your technicians and coaching and leading them and helping them get better, which you should be doing. You should be providing a culture and an environment that helps people get better each and every day. Progress over perfection. And we should be influencers of that. And so the more you can get better at this, not only with your customers, but also with your employees, the better it's going to be for them, the better it's going to be for you, the better it's going to be for your customer and the experience that everybody has with one another. See, I always say that the employee is the first customer. That's why it's so important that our shops are decked out. In fact, we got a weekly update coming out. Maybe it already came out by the time this podcast is released, but go back and check it out. It's our 4th weekly update of video. And we highlighted a customer who literally transitioned from, just a great story. You need to check it out. It's cool to see these transitions, but all the things that go into it, they're important. In fact, I was just explaining to another owner in a coaching call, hey, it's like spinning plates. The stick that you're spinning the plate on that's the culture that you develop at your company. The plate is the human, the human that you hire. The better the plate, the better the human, the more balanced that plate's going to be, and the longer it will spin, the less micromanaging you'll have to do, the less correcting you'll have to do. And then you're the plate spinner. You want to make sure that you have a good stick. You want to make sure that you have a good plate, and you want to make sure you're doing a good job spinning that plate. All right, guys, listen, this is the stuff that we've got to constantly get better at. I love that you guys listen to the podcast. Appreciate all of you. Almost to 30,000 downloads. That just blows my mind. I appreciate each and every one of you. I really do. I am so excited that we get to do this journey together. I love the reports. Please send me more information, positive stories, things that are happening, changes that are going on in your community, impact you're making with your customers and your employees on your brand, your culture, and your vision for where you're taking your company, because this is your dream. This is your desire. This was your movement, and I just want to help you get there. Guys, as always, remember, and ladies, serve your communities and everything, not just plumbing. Have a great day.
Fresh.